rip the band-aid off, because here we are. It has started. Gave nobody any preparation there. Just, well, hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
This is new to us. So welcome to my channel. This is How to Train Your Gavin. And sorry, I've got a plane in my head. There we go. There we go. So this is Jay's book club. We are all co-hosts. Jay isn't here at the minute. That's absolutely fine. We have my lovely co-host, which I'll let introduce. So Cody, then Jade, then Jess, if that's all right.
Yeah. So I'm Cody from Cody's Book Corner. And do you want me to tell you like the rating of the book, or?
Yeah, you can't do. You can't start because this is about Cinderella is dead. So we may as well give it. Oh, it matches your outfit. Wow.
Well, I had to wear blue today, as I was saying.
Yeah.
I ended up giving it 3 stars.
Fair.
Yeah.
Fair.
Let me just dig out my rating because can I remember? I feel like I might have given it 4, but it doesn't deserve that. No, I gave it 3. It's fine. Whew. Anyway, I'm Jade from JD Way Reads, and I gave it 3 stars. I've only just remembered that, but that's how it went.
Just shows you how much of an impact it made on you.
Yeah. And then I'm Jess from Jess Nevertheless, and I actually DNF'd it, so I didn't rate it.
Yay!
I feel really bad about that.
We've DNF'd in the past. I remember Red Sister. We all just didn't read Red Sister.
Yeah.
I mean, Cody did, fair enough, but like most of us did.
Didn't Cody really like that one?
Yeah.
And AJ's a fan too. Well, we were, and then we found out he was a bit creepy, so I don't know where we stand anymore.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah. Well, I'm Gavin, and I gave this. Well, I originally gave a 4-star on Goodreads because I think that's what Corpile gave it. But I'd probably say 3 in my heart. In my heart, it's a 3, I think. So yeah, my general thoughts on this one is that it was a good book. It was a good. Oh wait, hang on. Before we start, we go through nominations for the next one.
Oh yeah.
Okay, before we start, let's just get into the nominations. Cody, what do you nominate for the next Read, Rate, Review?
Sorry if you can hear a police siren outside. It's the thing here always. What did I nominate? Right, okay. The Midnight Library by the amazing Matt Haig, who I love a lot, even though I've only read one of his fiction books. He's great. Highly recommend. I've not even read it yet. But this one is I think it's adult, right? And it's like fantastical. I'm not sure what category you put it in, but it's about a library between life and death. And we have a character who gets a chance to go back and change some things, make some different choices. And I know this is going to be super emotional. So many people have said that it's my favorite, and I think it will be one of my favorites. So this is why I'm nominating this one.
Nice. Jitty?
Shall I go next? I'm not sure what order we're going in. But my nomination is The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. I've read one thing from TJ Klune before, but I have a funny feeling this is going to be an entirely different kettle of fish than what I've read from him. Because that's a little bit more on the risque side. Whereas this is supposedly middle grade for adults and about a guy who has to determine the fate of these magical children, I think.
Yes.
From what I remember. But I know that it's just kind of pitched as middle grade but for adults, so I'm like there for that.
Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah, sounds good.
My turn?
Yeah.
I chose The Toy Makers. This was actually sent to me from someone that thought I'd really like it, but it's like a wintry book, and I was like, we're moving into winter. But it's about the war in Europe, and there's a woman who tries to escape, and she goes to this thing called the Emporium, where it's like live toys, very creepy. I guess it's like it's an adult book, but it's also like wondrous and creepy at the same time.
Ooh.
And I thought it'd be really good. But it doesn't say a whole lot on the back, and I didn't want to like spoil it for myself, but I thought the overall feel for it was really cool.
That was a good little teaser.
I get from that, Jess. The vibe, I mean, it's not a good vibe, but the miniaturist, your description of something something historical and go somewhere where there's live toys. Are there actually?
Hopefully it's better than that one. Because I hated that book.
I hated that book.
I think all of us did, right? I don't think anyone liked it.
No one liked that
No
one.
one liked it. Hey, I finished that one though, at least.
It was before my time.
It was.
It was so terrible. You're lucky you didn't have to read that one. Don't ever read that one. It was terrible.
Right, I'll not pick that one up. But I believe Jay might put the form out on the Twitter. So keep an eye on the Twitter, and then you guys can, vote for your favorites, and they all sound pretty good to me. I've seen that Toy Makers one around as well. I've seen lots of people pick it up at the bookstores and stuff. So I feel like all are good choices. It's always good when there's only like a few to pick from, because otherwise I just get, perplexed. I don't know what to
odds
pick.
are in our favor.
They are. They were the last time because it was just me and was it me and Cody who it was only between two. That's why I won, because it was only between the two of us.
So you're saying I should have picked the same book as Cody?
Well, yeah, I guess. Well,
Then the odds would have been against me.
Oh yeah.
Well, in that case, I would have probably gone with House in Cerulean Sea, because that was
Oh my god! So should we just forget the nomination?
yeah, and just all read House in the Cerulean Sea.
Yeah.
we'll run it by Jay, I guess. And AJ. Right, so getting into the book then. So I guess this is the part of the chat where I warn people that we might go into some spoilers. There were some twists and turns that we can probably talk about. I mean, Jess, of course, we'll be spoiling it for you if you don't mind.
I was like, I had 4 hours left of the audiobook and I could not do it. Yeah, that's how close I got.
Wow.
That's still a lot of time though.
Yeah.
It's all good. I mean, that's 4 hours that you could have put towards something else or another audiobook that you wanted to listen to.
Yeah.
Speaking of, actually, because I did listen to the audiobook for some of this, did you find the narrator at the start was a little bit too chirpy? Just like with some of the happiest things, like there was a part, I actually wrote this down because I'm so nitpicky. There was a part at the start, there's no spoiler, but where she says, I hope Erin runs and isn't killed. She sounded like she kind of laughed.
Yeah. Well, I had to listen to it on like 1.75 speed because it was so slow. And for me, like I couldn't get my hands on a physical copy and I didn't want to go and buy it because I didn't know if I'd like it. So I was listening to the audiobook and if the audiobook, I don't enjoy the narrator, it just really takes away from the book for me. So to make myself even like it, I put it on 1.75. And then if I like accidentally put it on 1, I was like, she sounds so slow. So some of the the inflection in her voice was kind of lost because it was pretty fast. But she did there was a lot of times that's one of the things I didn't like about the audiobook. The switch from the storytelling and then dialogue was very weird to me. So.
No, I agree. And sometimes just with the sound of each of the characters and things, I couldn't differentiate too much. And then I could see her trying to sound more masculine when she was voicing the male characters. And sometimes that can affect my rating. So I don't listen to audiobooks a whole lot because of that. But no, I agree with that. But it was a little slow, so I ended up having to bump it up to 2 by the end of it. And I was like, come on. But I was reading along as well, so I wouldn't forget too much. But so general thoughts for me anyway, because I said before that I did give it a 4. Many of the positives why I liked it so much is because of the main character and the fact that she is a lesbian, and I love the there's a part that I picked out where she said, in order to survive, I have to hide how I feel. And I absolutely loved that kind of comparison to real life, because this did feel dystopian in its plot. In fact, it felt a little bit Handmaid's Tale-esque in how it was forcing women to stay in this kind of forced role, and at least to go on this trajectory that favored men. That's where I got the whole vibe from, with it being a bit dystopian, and I kind of like that. But it was the whole her having to try to hide herself that I kind of I kind of relate to this. I mean, I don't, because obviously I'm it isn't the same kind of world at all, but I do in just the fact that she had to hide herself. So main character wise, I got behind her. I really did get behind her. I'll remember
Gonna
her name.
counteract that and be like, characters on my core pile characters is what rated lowest for me.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
No,
I
that's-
just didn't like any of them. I feel like we're supposed to like them. Like, I like it when I don't like them and I know I'm not supposed to like them, so it's well done that I don't like them. Whereas in this one, I just didn't like them. But I didn't feel very strongly about them at all. I mean, they seemed very bland. But the world was great. I really liked the atmosphere and the whole dystopian vibe, and the mirroring of like Handmaid's Tale-esque world going on there was really interesting. I did like that a lot. And for that reason, atmosphere came out pretty high, but characters just felt pretty bland to me.
Yeah. I think it's always fun to read a book about a lesbian couple that takes down the patriarchy. That's always fun. But my thing was, it's very didactic, I found. It was quite predictable, coincidental. There was some like little plot holes that I was like, well, why? What? Okay. And it kind of ended up being exactly how I expected it would be, which is a nice, happy kind of fairy tale ending in itself. But those aren't the endings I like. I like the ones that aren't satisfying. I like the ones that are open to interpretation. I would have liked it to be a little bit more subtle. Like, you're showing me enough. You don't need to tell me as well. Do you know? So that was my kind of issue with it. But I love the idea of turning the Cinderella story on its head and having her not need a Prince Charming to rescue them in the end. It was all like a plot and whatever. And yeah, it was a lovely retelling and something really cool with a dystopian vibe, but I just found it to be a little bit too predictable to hold my interest for that long. Like, I wasn't really excited to keep picking it up. Just me?
No, I totally get that, especially when it was like heading towards like the latter part of the book, because by that point we were getting into so like after she leaves the ball and things and she's run away. And then she came across characters so easily and so quickly. I felt like there wasn't really any kind of danger. Well, not danger, but like the stakes didn't feel that high, even though they should have been, because everything came to her too easily. So by the time she got to the fairy godmother, I was like, nobody's seen this fairy godmother in how many years? She literally comes across her like, hey, literally
she was like the only character that I mildly liked. Like, I can understand the main character and, you know, why we're technically supposed to like her or relate to her or whatever. But the fairy godmother was the only character that I liked, because she kept trying to threaten to kill people all the time. And like, I don't know, I just liked her. She seemed the most well fleshed out to me, because she had so much backstory with like her. And because I mean, I got up to the part where they go into the pool and they have like their little visions or whatever. That's where I stopped reading. So like just a little bit we got from her and like her actual backstory and her history, even though they talk about, you know, the history of Cinderella, I feel like the story didn't actually back that up at all. Like it revolved around that, but there wasn't enough depth. But I liked
therefore missed a lot of her backstory as well, because there was a twist in her backstory that happens after that. And I was just going to say, the plot twists in relation to the fairy godmother, I think really were the best things about it. Like and how there's the plot twist for her to then, we're spoiling it anyway, aren't we? So I'm just going to go out there and
from that point on, what happens?
Spoil. So the fairy godmother is the prince's mum.
What in the hell?
Yeah, Prince's mom, and she's the one that's like given him the powers to regenerate, because he is the same Prince Charming from Cinderella to the same king now.
I knew about him.
Yeah, the fairy godmother is his mum, and that's how he gets that power. And then she betrays Sophia by basically feeding her to the prince. And then there's that little bit at the end where I kind of feel like she's then going to betray the king again, but then the other girl stabs her instead. So all of those twists with where does the fairy godmother's alliance lay? I still don't know, and I'm okay with that.
It was definitely with Sophia, right, in the end. I felt like
because it was Constance. It was Constance that stabbed the fairy godmother. But did the fairy godmother fall on that blade, or did Constance get there quick enough to stop that? I thought that was quite foggy, and I liked that.
I think they were trying to make it foggy, but the fact that she gave it to her that way makes me think that was kind of an obvious kill me. But like, yeah.
Well, and the fairy godmother, when she went into the pool, she was like, "Oh, that's how I'm gonna die." So she already knew. Yeah, she like already knew. Like, well, and if she knew Constance was going to eventually kill her, she might have just been like, "All right, we'll do it," because I know it's gonna happen anyway.
Yeah.
And then her dying is how the prince dies.
So you're saying I would have liked the last 4 hours of the audiobook, but nothing before that.
Probably. Because it was the deepest into the fairy godmother and how it was her like necromancy that was keeping the prince alive, and therefore by her dying, the magic tied to him dies as well.
I just want a story about her.
Read the last 4 hours of the audiobook.
I'm gonna borrow the book from the library and just read it myself.
Well, I mean, to be fair, most of that impact was because I was surprised by those plot twists. Now we kind of told you about it, it might not be as impactful.
Yeah.
But I did like it. I thought it kind of tied in really well. Fairy Godmother definitely is probably the best character. But I don't understand. You know how you got to the bit with like the going to the water and stuff? What was the point in that scene? Like, why did they do that? I can't recall why they did it. But like, literally, I kind of hate that though, because it's when like people go to psychics.
I'll tell you the exact reason for that scene was the naked twin.
Fair. Okay.
You're so not wrong. That's exactly
they just wanted to throw in some foreshadowing, but no.
It feels kind of sad to me because I know that a lot of people don't mind like insta love, but I feel like because there's representation in this, because she is a lesbian character, the fact that it was insta love, like she went from pining, that's part of the reason why I stopped reading it. She went from pining for her best friend and like wanting to run away with her to meeting Constance, and in a period of like 3 days being like, oh, I love you. Like I was just like, all right, I'm out. Like I can't handle it. Like I don't like, and for me, I don't know if it's like my change in reading tastes or what, but the book felt really juvenile to me, which, and I don't mean like, because like you said, I've read like middle grade YA teen, and they've held up better than I think this book did. And I don't know if it's because it wasn't like fleshed out enough or what, but just reading it, it felt like a really bare bones story that you would kind of start to write and then you'd add on to later and like develop more. So for me, it was like, I don't even want to waste my time. Like that's why I was like, I'll just wait till the live stream. They'll tell me what happened in the book. Cause like, I want to know, but I don't like, I like the story, but I don't like it enough to actually read it. I just kind of like want to know the story. Like it's a fun story to know, but not one that I want to take my time to like sit down and actually read.
Yeah.
You don't really need to now.
Now I know how it ends. So did they overthrow Prince Charming?
Yeah, in like the space of it, like the epilogue is basically like, oh, and now Constance is queen and everything's fine. There's no patriarchy anymore. Out. Peace out.
How old is... I'm so confused. You can't like undo all of that in. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's like.
There's a line where they say something like, "Oh, the people that didn't want this are still present, and we still have work to do." But
yeah, it was just really, really like wrapped up so quickly and easily, and I guess that's kind of like a fairy tale ending, so it's nice in that respect. But I'm just like. Really?
but if you're gonna go so far as to write like an alternate Cinderella, like I don't know, like the fairy tale ending thing, like make it a little bit more complex. Because I would be so mad if I got to the end, like if I had read it and that would have been the end, I would have just yeeted the audiobook across the room. I would not have dealt with that.
No, I agree with that. Especially when they're getting kind of wrapped up a little bit too easily. I did feel, as you said before, like I think Jade said about the atmosphere and like the plot and stuff, it did carry through. The plot I felt definitely started to go in that. I mean, there were plot twists, but I felt like some of the plot just kind of tried to lead into them. So it was a plot twist and then story around it. It was getting to each plot twist rather than really like fleshing out the world enough. I definitely thought the first part of the book was stronger, mainly because as soon as it started to branch out into her going into like the woods and running away and all of that, that's when it started to fall apart a bit for me, because I felt it kind of got into too much of a tropey kind of exploration, like journey kind of thing. She meets a potential love interest, and then she meets the person everyone's been looking for hundreds of years, and then then they overthrow the patriarchy and all that. So it kind of like, it definitely, as the story went on, it fell off a little bit. Yeah,
that's one of the things that I complimented it for no spoilers. One of the
Yeah.
things I complimented
Well.
it for in my vlog was, I thought the pacing was pretty good, but I think that might just be because I want it to be over, so I want it to be
Yeah.
quick.
That's when I
Yeah.
stopped reading it. I was like, I'm gonna put it on like 2.5 speed because I can like, I don't know, I just do that usually. But I was like, I feel really bad. Like I can't. I don't know. Like I feel like a lot of times if I force myself to finish a book, I tend to be like, oh, I should rate this, and then I'm like, but I didn't enjoy it. But then what do you rate it? So I was like, I'm just gonna DNF and not rate it at all because I understand that. Because there's a lot of discussion about seeing representation. Like people say, oh, like we have all the vampire stories, we have all the retellings, we have all of that. The main character is both Black and a lesbian. So I understand like how important it is. But for me, it was like, I don't feel like this, like it would be right for me to rate it because I imagine like even in chat, there's a ton of people that loved it. And there are going to be a ton of people that read it and being able to see themselves in it, they're going to love it. But for me, I was like, I'm not going to finish it. I'm not going to rate it. I'm just going to, like, I enjoyed, like I said, the beginning part of it mostly. And then I did like the fairy godmother. But other than that, like there was a lot of tropes in it that really, and like, I didn't really like the world at all, but I'm not a reader of dystopian. It's like one of my least favorite genres to read. So I think I probably wouldn't have picked this up on my own, like to begin with.
Yeah, it's a very important story, and I'm glad I'm so happy to see it. And it's great as well when it's a retelling of something that we know and it's flipped on its head. It makes it so much more interesting. Even when they do include the tropes, like they're tropes for a reason, it's good to have them in these types of stories. But for me, it was more of an execution thing, just because it felt, I think Gav was getting at this, but it felt a little bit formulaic. Like the structure was very like what you're used to. And I think after just reading so many books now, you pick up on it a bit easier, and you're a bit like, oh, okay, so now there's going to be an exciting incident, and then a few chapters later, there's going to be another incident, and it's going to be a red herring. So it just felt a little bit, I don't know, it just didn't excite me to pick it up. But yeah, I can still get a lot of joy of seeing, like I said, these two lesbians take down the patriarchy. It was great. I was like, cheering along with them, but yeah, just a little bit formulaic for me, I think, in structure.
Yeah. Well, how did you find the like relationship between Constance and our main protagonist? What's her name again? Sorry, Sophia. So how did you find that? Because obviously she was in like head over heels in love with Aaron to begin with. So when she ends up, there were some like problems there as well, because I don't think Aaron gave Sophia a chance to prove herself, and it felt like Sophia kept on trying to prove herself, like, I can do this, we don't have to live like this, we can do something about this and make a change. And Aaron was like, we need to kind of play along and all of that. So she didn't really give Sophia a chance. She didn't believe in her, is probably the main takeaway from their relationship. But we never saw why Sophia loved Aaron so much. We didn't see what happened before. So I know, like, I think some people said in the chat as well about Aaron and how they wanted them to get together. Sorry, I'm scrolling all the way up. Where is it? I definitely saw someone mention Aaron before. I cannot find it. There was something about Aaron. Yeah, it was just the fact that she just did not believe in our main character. But then, like, we do go to Constance, and then we have to kind of like switch lines, because when we start off a story like this with the main character loving someone, we kind of have to be on board with that as well to begin with. We have to make our own decisions, and we kind of did. So I kind of fell out of love with Aaron. And then, Constance comes along, and then we have somebody else we can root for. I found it a bit weird to begin with, though, because there was a moment where I think Constance is playing with Sophia's hair, and Sophia says, "Oh, it reminds me of being with of my mother." And so I kind of, to begin with, I kind of got this feeling of like a motherly kind of relationship, like, which was the wrong kind of impression to have straight away. But that's what I got from the writing. It felt like it was almost set up to be motherly to begin with, and then it turned, romantic. But yeah, that's why I was like a little bit unsure about her changing her kind of love interest to being Constance. But I wasn't really ever on board with both of them, like, to begin with. I was Constance at the end, but I just, it was a weird one for me.
I don't really remember, does Aaron ever say at all that she, like, is it a one-sided thing, or does Aaron reciprocate? Like, I don't remember, because the whole time she's like, no, this isn't happening. So it sounds like she just knows that Sophia is in love with her, and she's like, oh, we can run away. And then Aaron just keeps being like, no, like, we're gonna stay. I have to do this. And it sounded like to me, the reason why I didn't like her pretty much immediately was because she sounded to me as though she knew Sophia was in love with her, but didn't want to be like, I don't love you. I'm just gonna keep allowing this to happen. I know that's not necessarily what the story was supposed to be or what the author was trying to write, but that's the vibe that I got from her.
Yeah. That was yeah, I think it was you, Dan. Thought she'd go back to Aaron for most of the book. So even while she was like having this kind of chemistry with Constance, she was always wanting to go back to Aaron for most of it as well.
Yeah, I remember a little bit of that, like her conflicting feelings when she started having feelings for Constance. It just sounds like really young love to me. You know what I mean? Like you meet somebody, or, you know, because I don't know how big the city that they live in technically is. And I would assume if you're a lesbian in the city, there's like 4 other that you know of that are, you know, open about it. And her best friend happened to also be. So like, you know, but I didn't like the relationship. I didn't like any of the relationships in this book.
I never like relationships anyway, to be fair.
No, even like the hetero relationships were awful. Like every relationship in this book is terrible. It's not like, I know Cinderella is supposed to be a love story, but I didn't feel that at all in this book. Even with Constance.
I think my favorite relationship in the book was between her and her dad, because her dad was in like a weird position, but like he still like tried to make sure that she like got away safe. But the whole time for this book, I couldn't help but be a bit frustrated with Sophia because she's so like la-di-da about saying stuff in public, and I'm like, girl, you know people are dying, right? Like I know that you're meant to be like brave and you want to like do it all and change things now, but your actions have consequences. Like people have died literally because of your like what you've done.
When she's at the ball and she fights back against that guy, and I was just like, what are you doing? He literally like didn't really don't return.
Yeah, it was just like, it was a bit strange. I was like, there maybe should be a bit more subtle, like in the way that you're doing this. It was a bit odd. Yeah,
like I feel bad that, you know, that she had to live that way at all. But there's just certain times when she would do it that I was just like, you're literally at the ball where the men are choosing their wives, because apparently that's a thing. Like, and she's just over there smart mouthing this man who's a terror to everyone. And I'm just like, Kate, so this is literally for the plot. Like this is just supposed to create, you know, tension or whatever. I was like, that's part of it. I was like not enjoying the book at all, because that kind of stuff was really apparent. It was really, really transparent. And I don't know what, you know, like who the book is marketed for necessarily, but that's part of the reason why I felt like it was for a younger audience. Because there's a lot of things that I think when you're, like you said, Cody, like when you've read so many books, you start to see things that you're just like, okay, well, this is, you know, like I tend to think when you read other books or you read for a long time, it becomes more complicated to see those sorts of things. But when you're younger and you're starting out, you know, and you're like getting into more complex stuff, this is definitely not like young kids, but just some of the stuff, it was just very, very obvious to me. And I was like, I could have predicted that. That's why I didn't finish it. I was like, they're going to overthrow everything. I don't need to know like what happens.
Yeah.
I don't need to necessarily read it
ahead of time that the fairy godmother would have been his mum, because I was like, oh, he's staying around, it must be connected. And I was like, okay, yeah, I'm right. And I was
I didn't get that one.
Forgetting it. I was like, ugh. But I've seen so many YA books recently, or maybe just like not that recently, but I've seen some where it's like the twist is always that like someone's a parent. So I was like waiting for it.
Yeah. And that's not to say, like, I think we can all agree, like, we've all read really great YA books that were like even teen, middle grade, that are really good. This is just one of the ones that I think got kind of put into the, you know, into whatever genre it was put into. But even if you looked at it in its own genre or in other genres, it was just, the writing was really weak, unfortunately. Like the storytelling was just really weak.
Yeah.
I always
like,
hate
the idea was
saying
bad,
that.
though.
I feel so bad when I say things like that. That's why I'm not rating it or reviewing it on Goodreads. I'm just gonna delete it off my shelf. I can't. Can't do it.
No, it's very fair, very fair. We did give our ratings. It was pretty much 3s across the board, just DNF'd. I gave it a 4, but looking to give it maybe a 3.
We always do this.
Yeah, every single time. Every time
like
we read a review. I like, well, to be fair, like most of like the reason why I did like it when we've discussed it is just like the representation, which is both great and bad. And yeah, I liked it. I thought that it had a stronger opening than it did ending up, and then the plot twist as well. I love me a good plot twist.
Do you see Lisa's comment where Aaron totally strung her along, but I do think at the same time she did care? I like that. Because that's what I said, like very young. Like I don't even remember how old. What are they, like 16? Something like that? Yeah, like it was very young.
Yeah, it was a specific age range because isn't it like you have to be between these? Like there was only
you get the 3 years.
16 to 18 to go through a ball.
Yeah. Definitely.
It's like your actions have consequences on your family as well. Like that was what like Sophia didn't seem to get, that like she was putting her parents in danger, whereas Erin knew. She was like, I have to do this, otherwise I'm screwed. Like we can't just leave.
And she said that more than once too, Sophia. She's like, I get that you have this, like I get that you care and you have this fanciful idea to run away. She's like, and she kept saying things to her like, where are we gonna go? Yeah. Has anyone ever accomplished this? Do you like, talking about the woods and stuff? She's like, okay, so you want to do this, but she did the mature thing, even though I don't like her, of being like, well, what's your plan? Because Sophia's plan was like, oh, we'll just run away. And Erin's like, that's not an answer, because then if they find me, they kill the family, they kill me, I mean, Erin seemed to definitely like young in her relationship, or maybe she was just like, like Lisa said, just scared, but definitely more mature, I think, in knowing how things work. And like I said, I'm not saying it's not unfortunate that things are that way, but to an extent, I did like some aspects of Erin because of that. She just seemed to have like realistic expectations, or like, if you're going to make me abandon this entire thing, like I need to know where we're going.
Which is why I think the plot kind of dissolved over time, because this should have been such a difficult task for Sophia, who was essentially by herself to begin with. And then she's at the ball and then she manages to escape. I feel like that should have been more difficult than it was. And it just felt like Erin did kind of ground her and gave her like the right questions of like, how are we going to do this? Like, where are you going to go? So yeah, I totally agree with that. I didn't think of that before, but I do now. But yeah, some stuff was way too convenienced. Guy that has more money chooses your wife doesn't make sense at all. Yeah. Some of it, I think was more to service the kind of the plot, but I felt like some like parts like that just didn't make too much sense in the grand scheme of it.
I wonder if that's like the author making, I don't know, like, I don't want to say like a political statement, but I don't know where she's from, but like some of the like money talks, money gets you what you want, like people, like people will never remember you won't remember you in certain circumstances, but they'll remember the money you spend, or they'll remember you because you spend money, kind of thing. Like it's a whole like power thing that she's got going on based around money. Like I definitely got that vibe, which made me not like the book even more.
There's just a lot of conveniences. I don't know if any of you picked up on like, why the hell would Constance's like family members, like past generations, not have like seeked out the fairy godmother already before? And the book that she had literally had the clues on how to like what was happening, but she hadn't paid close attention to the illustrations. Like a whole family had this book for generations, and no one like saw that it was different to the ones that they had in the it was just
too convenient. Isn't it convenient that Sophia is the one who runs into Constance, who has pretty much the answers to everything as well? And then
who just so happens to be in Cinderella's tomb that they would need like later on. Yeah.
Wait, did they resurrect Cinderella?
Yeah.
Yeah, for a brief moment.
Was it awful? Is that how he dies?
No.
Oh.
It was literally just before.
How did it tie into Sophia's vision?
Journal. Yeah. She was like, find my journal, and then like she found her journal really easily.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of resurrection tropes at the best of times, but I was looking forward to seeing Cinderella get resurrected in a way, because like she is like a historical figure in this world, and it is. I do love the idea behind it, the fact that there was this fairy tale, and there's a whole different version of it, because obviously like fairy tales aren't what they appear to be, but I love the creativeness around that. And so I was really excited to see Cinderella as a character, just to see like maybe like what she would have said about it all, and like how like in her kind of story. We do get to see her story and the real story as well, but I don't know, I felt like it could have been so much more embellished in how it was like executed. And I feel like that this book should have probably been 2 parts. It probably should have been a sequel, and then this part could have been like fleshed out a lot more, and I don't know, and like maybe change some of the I mean, I'm not a writer, so I don't know.
If it was a sequel, hands down, I would have never picked up the second one.
Yeah,
If it had
That's
of, like,
probably be a really bad choice.
if it had of like embellished everything in this one, like if it had been longer, if it had been like split.
Gav's
So,
trying
like,
to say if it was better, and then
Yeah.
instead of being
Better.
rushed at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not if it was
Well,
longer.
I know I say it like every stream, but I would really like to see the story rewritten. Like, I don't want to say by like a different author, like she can rewrite it again, but I just want it, like, I love the storyline. Like, despite like the plot and stuff, like obviously some things can like be reworked, like how transparent it is. But I think this could have been a really, really great book. Like the overall like actual story I thought was really cool. So I'm sad.
It's how I feel with a lot of YA books that I read, actually, is the premise of this is so good.
They have the best ideas. YA
Yeah.
authors are so creative.
Like the creativity behind flipping the Cinderella story to it not being Cinderella's story at all, but the fact that Cinderella was originally sent there to assassinate the prince.
Yeah.
Like that idea is so good. And it just lost a lot of the like momentum I think that it needed.
No, that's fair. I mean, yeah, with these lives, we usually go into what we like and then what we dislike. We kind of just mashed it all together there. And it was mainly what we didn't like too much. But there, as you said, there are some really good things about it, like especially with the like ingenuity behind the story. I don't really think I've read very many YAs that have retold. Well, saying that, yes, I have. The Curse of Maloney, for example. That's one. I don't know what. I probably, you know what, I'm going to say I probably prefer Cinderella is Dead over A Curse of Maloney. I'm not going to lie. I think I do. Just because I didn't really like that one all that much.
You know how people say, like, if you recommend a book, like if you like characters, you'll like this book, or if you like, you know, setting or whatever. If you like what would be, you know what I mean? Like, what do you think the like big redeeming factor of the book is when it comes to that, like character, plot?
I don't know what I rated most highly on Copile. I forgot. It might be atmosphere, maybe. I would probably say like the kind of the general tone of the book kind of stayed rather consistent. It might not have been brilliant all the way through or anything, but I feel like the tone kind of kept up. Yeah, that was probably most consistent.
I agree.
Because I did feel like the plot did start to like flounder and things, but I think overall, like the tone, like I felt like she'd set the world. Could have been built a little better, but she said it and it stayed contained and that kind of thing. So probably that, I think.
For me, I think it just like the most like the best selling point is the representation. There's just not enough female you know, driven books out there that have those relationships. And although I got really excited because I didn't realize for some reason nobody told me this was gay, and that's like one of my favorite female book, I'm gonna read it, right?
Yeah.
So I was kind of annoyed that no one mentioned that. It's fine.
It's not fine, Cody's not okay.
Yeah, but that's the thing. But then again, it's one that just fell. The relationship fell flat for me because there just wasn't enough development there. I liked their banter, their back and forth. So I think the main draw is the rep and also the concept.
Yeah.
But for me, the execution just a bit, you know, needed work even.
Completely in agreement with that. It's a gay black Cinderella story.
Yes, we love to see it. We want more of this stuff.
That, should be told. Should have been available beforehand.
Yeah. 100%. And I did like, because wasn't it her friend Luke who is gay as well? Yeah.
He was like, I'm like you. And she's like, what do you mean you're like me? I'm like, hello. He's trying to tell you that he's also gay.
Okay.
And he was like, I want to marry you. And she's like, why would you marry me? I'm like, it's called a marriage of convenience. Hello.
That's that could have worked out so well as well. I mean, it just all fell apart. But yeah.
I think the story could have been very interesting if it went that way as well.
Yeah, it could have been. She would have been safer.
Did he like come back in the story? Because the last thing I remember happening with him is he gets like attacked because of her loud mouth during the ball.
What we missed out on at the end is that they found out what happened to all of the missing girls that had been like taken or sucked the life out of, or whatever it is that he like sucks the life out of them, which is why they all turn white when they die. And he had like a dungeon full of all of these mystery missing people, and he was there, and Sophia releases them all at the end. Because, you know, Superwoman, she can do it all.
She can. Yeah, she can. She can do anything she wants. I did. So then I did actually end up liking the sort of friendship between Luca and Sophia, even though she was very resistant. But I think that was her trying to protect herself, because obviously, like with it being, and she's never met anybody like her.
Well, and it's weird though, because like Cody was saying, she walks around like just loud and proud about it in this place that's clearly not okay. And then Luke's like, hey, I'm also gay. And she's like, what are you talking about? I'm not gay. I'm like, everybody else, let him be your friend.
Yeah.
It's like those kind of inconsistencies that I was just like, I don't understand. Like the waffling, like the constant waffling. And it wasn't even like, a lot of the time it didn't make sense. Like it's normal in a book to have like maybe what you thought be incorrect, or maybe, you know, you start trying to consider other options. But with her, it was just like, oh, now I think this, or oh, now I feel like this, or I'm going to do this, or change my mind. And I was just like, but why? Like, what? Why are you making these decisions?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I actually thought the Luke thing was going to go a totally different way. I thought, because when he gets very like evidently bullied by some of the other guys, and they were like so obvious about like their homophobia, I thought this is a bit too in my face kind of thing. So I thought maybe like it was an act to trick Sophia into admitting who she is to Luke, and then Luke would double cross her. That's what I initially thought, because sometimes like when I read books with LGBTQ plus characters, and obviously like I always end up relating to them, and I'm like, I see so many of these situations, and especially when Luke gets bullied, I'm like, I've seen that, but it's like, it's too obvious. It's too it's homophobic, but in a way that it was pushed, if you know what I mean. Like they were like too evidently like bullying kind of thing. It just seemed too in my face almost, because I've seen it like before, like hundreds of times, and I've seen it done well in books as well when characters are confronted with homophobia. But I think, as Cody said before, it's like didactic, where it just seems to be like that kind of message there of it was like too obvious, and that's why I thought, oh, maybe Luke's going to double cross her, and it turns out he's not actually gay, he's just pretending to be, so that he can double cross Sophia. But no, it turned out that they are actually but I found that weird, because how would they like, I don't know, because like everything's supposed to be really secret, nobody's supposed to be gay or anything like that in that world, so like they're so obviously bullying him, and they kind of know, so why haven't they done something about it? Why haven't they? I don't know, it seemed too convenient for them to bully him about being gay in front of her as well. Even though they were trying to be sneaky about it. I don't know, it came across as too obvious. As we said before, convenient. It was just too convenient. So I kind of talked myself out of that, because I started that by saying, oh, I love the whole relationship with Luke, and then, oh, wait, it's way too obvious that he's being bullied for being, So I talked myself out of that one, didn't I? Never mind. Oh, maybe a novella prequel of Cinderella trying to take down the prince. I would have loved to have seen that. I would have loved to have seen probably more of like flashbacks or anything.
That story never actually happens, does it?
No.
Like, she never actually tries to take down the prince. Because
you could wrap the fairy godmother into there.
The drink. Yeah. But she does end up resistant, doesn't she? Because doesn't the potion kind of thing start to wear off, and that's why she gets like imprisoned and things. I would have loved to have seen a bit more of that. I don't know if I would read a novella now. Is the thing, like after reading this, like I had like all of the interest and the intrigue back when I started the book, and maybe the first half, but then it fell through. That's why I felt like it skewed younger, because a lot of things felt too obviously pushed.
Yes.
And yeah.
Like I said, I think it'd be good to get this book in people's hands that maybe are starting out, not necessarily starting out, you know what I mean, but like really exploring fantasy and, harder books to read or whatever, because it has such a good like story and so much representation. Like I think that would be like, I would have loved this book when I was very young, but not at the age I'm at now.
Yeah.
I'm thinking maybe like 13 would be a pretty decent age group for this to be projected to, and I think again the rep would be good for 13-year-olds to read from, to see. At our age, our ages, whatever.
Our ages. Yeah. So I'm just trying to. Does anybody have like a really like a bit that a favorite moment? Because I'm trying to think back now with all of the parts that was like spread out. Like there was like loads of different moments.
I
but-
like humor and like funny characters. So when the fairy godmother threatened to turn Constance into a toad, like it was so sassy, and like I like older like mentor, or like technically not a mentor, but those kinds of characters. So when she said that, I was like, why couldn't the book be like this the whole time? Like if the author could write something like that, like I just wanted it all to be like that.
Yeah.
My favorite moment is when Sophia had like a really good comeback. She went to the ball and some bitch came over and was like, why are you dressed like that? And she was like, why are you even talking to me if I'm not a frat? Like, and she just like knocked it down. And I was like, that's how you do it. That's how you deal with haters. And I thought it was just really well done. It was nice to see. Like, this is how you play with a bully. Like, a bully's like at you, and you're like, well, why are you even bothered about me then? Like, it was great. Yeah, I really liked it.
I wish it was like that the whole book.
Yeah.
Like, because I don't know anyone that will say something like that, because that's something that you have ingrained in you. Like, I don't care what anyone thinks. You know, like you've tempered yourself to this. And then through a lot of the book, I was just like, but you seem so weak. And I don't know if it's because, you know, what she's going through is obviously very traumatic. Like the whole experience is very traumatic. And maybe because I felt like the story was lacking, the sense of the trauma really that she was going through didn't really sit with me. So through a lot of the book, when she was doing stuff, I'm like, but you acted like such a badass at the beginning of the book. And now you're just like not, like your character has changed completely. And it feels really weak to me. It feels very inconsistent. Like the whole book is just so inconsistent.
Yeah. I definitely did feel like kind of floundered in the middle, and then kind of I did start to like certain scenes towards the end, and not as an overall kind of thing, but I did enjoy all of the plot twisting and all of that. It made it feel a bit more fresh before the end, where everything got wrapped up. As a whole, not great, but when I'm thinking about specific parts, it was the reveals. I like them. They were overly dramatic, and I love the drama really. So that's kind of that's really why I enjoyed it. But yeah, I guess overall, it's pretty much a census of kind of. I'm glad I read it. Because I haven't read too many YA fantasies. There's quite a lot that I still need to read. A lot of popular ones that you guys have all read and have been screaming at me to read for a while. So I gotta read it, and I do think that we're now going to be able to get more in this genre with, you know, more diverse characters as the main protagonists and things. I feel like it's been working that way in the YA industry for a little while now, and it's really like coming through full force now. So I'm excited for what's next for the YA fantasy. I thought it was an older middle grade, then there were naked ladies.
Whole reason for that scene, naked ladies.
Yeah. I'm wondering if this was written for a different age range. If it was written for a middle grade audience,
I think it would have worked. It was really hard to explain sexual assault. Like, I don't.
Yeah. Especially with the dystopian kind of part of it. I don't really know that many middle grade dystopians, but especially with forcing women into a specific role. And if it was adult, if it was written more for adult, the writing would have to really come through more. I feel like it would have to be more detailed, and the world building would have had to have been more substantial. But yeah, I feel like it was written in the right age range. It just didn't come across as the right way.
I think YA is the right place for it to be, but it's just young YA, and we don't split it enough to make that differentiation. We say YA. What's YA? 13 to what? 21? Is that sort of the age range you see? Like, that's a big difference between a 13-year-old and a 21-year-old. So I think young YA.
I'd agree.
Definitely. Yeah. Well, I genuinely don't know what to say else about this book.
Overall, pretty forgettable. Like, I had forgotten a lot of it before I sat down earlier today and thought, right, what were any of the characters called?
I had my phone out on Goodreads, like I'm gonna forget the main character's name.
I forgot my rating.
Yeah.
Guys,
Why didn't you even finish it?
I read this whole thing last night in like, I read it in one sitting because it was just like really, I thought it was just so quick to get through. And I was like, oh, I'll read some of it tonight and then I'll read some tomorrow before the live show because I'm just like the worst and just put it off. But I read it all in one sitting and I still forgot, like, I don't remember the name of the fairy godmother. Like, I don't remember her name.
I mean, neither. Because she's not just called fairy godmother. She actually has a... Oh. Is it Amina?
I remember Sophia and Constance, that's it.
Yeah.
Amina. It is Amina.
Yeah, Amina. Yes. See, there we go.
I think the pacing of it, as you say, Cody, you can read it in one thing. The pacing is there for it to be something you just fly through. But is that because it's predictable? You know what's coming, so it's easy for you to just be like, yep, oh, yep, saw that, yep. Like you've almost read it before you read it, therefore you read it really quickly because
that was the case for me because I guessed the plot twist of the mum and stuff. So I was just like, oh yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's a book, and we read it. Yay!
It's a book.
Yeah, I am really excited.
Yeah.
I think
glad I read it. Glad it exists.
Yes.
Definitely think other people should read it.
Yeah.
Just not a new favorite. 3 stars is not a bad rating.
Yes, agreed.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to see what other concepts this author comes out with in the future as her writing gets better. Like, this is so imaginative. I'm excited.
The fact that it is a debut, right?
I'm pretty sure,
Let's cut her some slack for that. Like, it's an incredible concept.
Yeah.
And for a debut author, I think it's only going to go uphill.
Yeah. And this is infinitely better than Infinity Son. So I always give it kudos to that. So yeah, I'm really excited for whatever the next read review book's going to be. I feel like that it's a really good selection for the next one. So I'm excited to see what wins. And yeah, like I feel like it'll be great when we move into different kind of age categories, and it'll be a nice little change and all of that jazz. So yeah, I'm excited. I don't know what will win, but yeah, I genuinely have nothing else to say about
the House and the Cerulean Sea will win.
Apparently, the author Kalynn has a book coming out in 2021, and it's called This Poison Heart.
Ooh, Snow White.
Snow White, which I really like. Snow White, but make it gay.
Oh, I love it. See, the concept is there. Like, I am already in. Like, I already want to read it. But like,
I'm also not a fan of Cinderella, so maybe that's why I was like,
Yeah,
fair. I love me a good fairy tale. But yeah, okay. Sorry about this. We'll be definitely changing my rating for this book from 4 to 3 after this chat.
That's usually
that's usually how it works.
Somebody will come in like, I loved this book, and by the end they're like, fine, 2 stars. And by somebody I mean me. It's literally me every single time.
And me.
And you,
yeah. I'm not coming to if I love the next book, I'm not coming to the live show if you guys are gonna like talk crap
me
about
with the
it.
Starless Sea. All of you just tore it to shreds, and it's me like, it's one of my new favorites. Apart from Jade. Jade liked it. Jade has taste.
Thank you.
Wait, which book?
Starless Sea.
Starless Sea.
I loved Starless Sea.
Yay! Another one.
It was like definitely one of my favorite books of the year.
Yes.
Who didn't like it?
Like everybody else.
Oh, shush. You need like a whole lot of plot. It's just a very confusing book.
There's no plot.
People are like, what happens? And I was like, oh. You just gotta be in the
live show where all of us were like, we don't know what happened.
Yeah. Literally, we were just. It's funny because even now, if I try to explain the plot, it would be very bare bones. But yeah, I just cannot.
Other than it follows Zachary Ezra Rollins.
Yes.
Oh my God! Every chapter, Zachary Ezra Rollins. Shove it up your butt. I feel like Jess, if were you there for the live show? I don't think you were for Starless Sea, right? So if you had been there, I feel like I definitely would have gotten your rating to just lay down a little bit, I think. So it's a good job you went there.
I'm gonna have to go and watch it now. I don't even think I got to watch that one.
Have you read Piranesi yet, Jess? Have you that reminds me a little bit of the Starless Sea. So
gonna look it up.
I'll. I mean, I think Cody's froze there. But
Yep.
There we go.
There we go.
Who's it by?
Susanna Clark.
All right, looking it up now.
It does look really good, but I say that I didn't really like Starless Sea that much.
Oh no, this has a plot, but I'm just thinking the vibe and the writing kind of reminds me a little bit of Starless Sea. So like, check it out. It's good.
To be fair, I did like the writing. Well, I say I like the writing. I had problems with it, but it was beautifully written. I give it that. So if it's written like that, I don't mind. I do need me some plot though.
I think you too, Gav.
Yeah, I will give it a try. It looks like a beautiful
Gav,
book.
have you read Addie yet?
Addie, no, not Addie
I
LaRue
really
yet.
want to read it.
I love that book.
Same. I mentioned it today.
Too, a little bit, I think.
It looks really good. It looks good. I can't wait. That would have probably been my option for the next one, but I know you guys. Well, Jade's read it. Cody's read it. I haven't read it. I don't know who else has read it.
I don't think anyone else has read it. Other than us.
So we could have done, but I can't nominate this time, and it's fine. I don't mind. I don't mind that as well. Just read Black Sun by Rebecca Roanhorse. So you have another favourite book next to the Starless Sea. Black Sun.
I need to read that one. That one looks really good too.
I haven't been buying books, and here are people like, you should read this book that you'll fall in love with. Like, okay, fine.
Oh yeah, while the book's for next month, Dems did say, so
I think G put up the voting, right?
Oh, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, so go vote on the Twitter, everyone. Yay. And yeah, I don't think there's too much left to say about everything. But we are excited for the future. The world is now blue. The world is blue. Today's a good day. Today is a very good day. So we are all smiling, discussing books and knowing that everything is right again in the world. Wow. So
I'm waiting for the riots to start. Although where I live is very blue, so I'm not like super worried about it. But there are, it's like, I'm in Columbus, the one little blue city, and then everything else was red. So I'm like, great.
Wow, surrounded. Yeah.
I cannot leave the city for a little while.
That is literally a Starless Day. I have seen a lot on Twitter of people posting like, I think it was in New York, and like everyone was like screaming in the streets and they were like so happy and stuff. That's what I want to see. I don't want riots.
Yeah. Hopefully not.
Hopefully not. Fingers crossed. So if anybody in the chat is in America, stay safe. And I'm very glad we got a great result in the election.
The plot twist 2020 needed.
Yeah, really, seriously. Like now I feel positive about what the rest of 2020 has to offer.
Did you see the meme that said Trump got the 2020 experience? He caught Corona, lost his job, and got evicted.
I did not say that. That is hilarious.
The best one that I've ever seen.
That's so good.
One of the best things about all of this are the memes that come from it. You can rely on the internet. Honestly, I don't know.
The Avengers one was great.
Oh yeah.
So good.
Yeah, my friend sent that one literally like an hour ago. I was a bit late on that one, but there was the one where is it the Trump's preacher or someone? She's saying like, I hear the sound of victory. I hear the sound of victory, and she sounds like she's almost rapping. So somebody puts the backing track of Eminem, and then there's a cat doing this, like just nodding along, and just like it's so catchy. It's so catchy. But
sometimes I love my country. Sometimes I hate it here.
Right. Same for our country. I look forward to seeing him tracked out the White House by his 2K.
If it stays on when they do it.
Yes, right.
He probably isn't super glued on at this point.
Yeah. Right. Sorry to talk about politics, guys. We do apologize.
It's history.
Yeah, we are living in history. I don't know if that made sense. Actually, sorry. So yeah, I'm getting a bit delirious now, so we can call it a night. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Thank you, everybody. Thank you to my lovely co-hosts as well. Links for their channels in the description. And please do vote on the next book as well. So bye, everyone. Bye.